Hello, everyone, and welcome to All on the Mat. Today we are going to take a look at some of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. And Hulk Hogan will not be on this list. You can see him here with a fantastic World Championship title around his waist. I don't know how many titles he won, maybe 6. Here he is. They even tossed him a title in 2002, I believe it was, in his comeback. And then there was great champions like Triple H, taking nothing away from him. I mean, at one point, he even had 2 titles. But today, the objective of this list is to look at some former WWF, WWE wrestlers that never won a single title in their career. And of course, we can't look at current wrestlers because their history is not written yet. They still are able to win titles. And food for thought, there are so many titles going around now that it's actually hard to find a wrestler that never won a single title. Now, we are going to focus in on 3 championship titles. This being one is the Tag Team Championship title, which was inaugurated in 1979, as you can see here, and it was deactivated. The Tag Team Championships were deactivated. Can you imagine that? In 2010. Very disappointing. And the Intercontinental Champion, we'll be focusing in on that. And that was also began in 1979. So 79 seems to be the hot spot. Food for thought here, guys. Hillbilly Jim, he never won a title. I mean, he was around for a long time. But anyway, also, there are lots of guys like that, like Coco Beware, never won a single title. And of course, guys, we're going to be taking a look at the World Heavyweight Championship. And that was won by Buddy Rogers, and that's debatable. Back in 63, that's debatable. A lot of people say Bruno Sammartino was the real first WWF championship, but that gets debatable. We're going to be looking at them 3 titles. And before I begin, it is worth to mention that this is a title, a crown, and this is King Harley Race, and that was actually a sanctioned title back in the day, and it is worth to mention because Harley Race, if not for this, he would have been definitely on this list. He lost his crown, no pun intended, he lost his crown to Haku, and it was a heel versus heel match. Haku was inaugurated, he was given the crown, and you know what? Personally, Haku, I think he was the best king. I think he was an awesome king. And then, of course, he lost his crown to Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And it is worth to mention this, guys, because Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he never won a single title besides this crown either. And him and Harley Race, they definitely would have been on this list. Jim Duggan eventually lost the crown to this man, Macho King, Randy Savage, and he retired the crown. Nobody ever could defeat Macho for that crown. Ooh yeah, dig it. And before I totally begin this one, Sting. It's worth to mention Sting because he did eventually go to the WWE at the end of his career. Never won a single title, but trust me, guys, if he had even stepped foot in the WWE or WWF in his prime, he would have taken a title. So I'm not really going to count him. Ladies and gentlemen, take a look at Kamala, the Ugandan giant, the Ugandan headhunter. This guy was around forever. He stuck around for so many years. He had so many big matches, guys, legendary matches against Andre the Giant. Undertaker never pulled a single title out of his hat. Unbelievable. Hercules Hernandez. I mean, Kamala and Hercules, I don't even know if they got a single world title shot. I believe Hercules did on a Saturday Night's Main Event, but not a whole lot in the way of getting title shots. But both men were around for a long time, and they both had the look. I mean, come on. I definitely think at some point or another, they should have got at least a tag title or even an IC title. Here's Bad News Brown. Now, this guy was bad news for any one of his opponents. And he, in fact, got at least a couple of world title shots. I remember him fighting Hulk Hogan for the championship title. And, hey, as a kid, I believed that he was going to defeat Hogan. He also faced up against Macho Man Randy Savage for the title. And food for thought here, a little behind the scenes information. Bad News Brown, I guess he retired or he quit the WWE because Vince McMahon promised him to be the first African-American world championship title holder. and he failed in his promise, so Bad News quit. Here is the Warlord and Barbarian, Powers of Pain, and focus in on the tag titles, or lack thereof. Can you imagine this here team in the 80s never captured the world tag titles, not even one time. And they were not only built well, but these guys not only had the look, but they had the skill as well to match. They eventually broke them up, which I think was a bad decision, and gave the Warlord, I don't know if he was supposed to be the Phantom of the Opera or something. I never got the gimmick. Barbarian, maybe a little bit better of a gimmick, but still, he looked like he was from Conan the Barbarian. And aside from the foolish gimmicks that they give him, they were still two big studs. Could have captured the IC, could have captured the world title even. And with the lack of tag titles behind their belts, both of these guys retired from the WWE, never once capturing any title. Here is Tatanka. This guy also had the look. He also had the skill. And if I remember correctly, when he hit the scene, I believe it was late 92, if not early 93, he had an undefeated streak that it went on forever. And it went to nowhere is where it went. I mean, like I said, the guy had the look. The guy had the skill. He had the fan base. I mean, I remember as a child, I just loved this guy. I was rooting behind him to win at least the IC title. And lo and behold, after failed Intercontinental match, after failed tag title match, the guy finished up his career without winning a single title. Unbelievable. Now this guy here, when you think of Superfly Jimmy Snuka, a prolific career like this just went on forever, and the guy dominated. I mean, who doesn't remember Superfly Jimmy Snuka flying through the air off that top rope? And the guy, he was in so many big matches and never won an IC title, never won a tag title, and of course never won the World Heavyweight Championship title. Unbelievable. I mean, this list goes on, guys. Here's Jake the Snake Roberts, probably one of the most famous gentlemen that we're going to hear about today. I mean, who doesn't know about Jake the Snake Roberts? Now, food for thought here. He did hold a title belt in the ring. This was the Ted DiBiase's $1 million belt, and I don't even think Jake won it. I think he stole it, and it was not a sanctioned title, so we don't count that. But Jake the Snake Roberts, one of, like I said, probably the most famous wrestler of all time, perhaps, that never captured a single title in the WWE, WWF. Here's Big John Studd, otherwise known as the Giant John Studd. He was a build 6'9" of muscle, 400 pounds of muscle. This guy was incredible. And not only was he big, but he wrestled forever. He had the longevity. He was a proven commodity. I mean, he had the skill as well. And not only did he not win a world title or an IC that he could have, but he had one of the best tag teams of all time. Him and this other guy here, King Kong Bundy. These guys were unbelievable. And they never captured the tag title, at least the tag title. Now, that's more of a stretch than Powers of Pain, perhaps. Now, talk about King Kong Bundy for a second. This guy here main evented. He was in the main event at a WrestleMania against Hulk Hogan, King Kong Bundy. And lo and behold, guys, finished up his career without winning a title. Can you imagine that? A wrestler. Imagine that today, watching a WrestleMania main event for the world title and knowing that the challenger never won a single title. That's unbelievable. One of the best big men, I should say, in pro wrestling history. And speaking of good big men, Bam Bam Bigelow. Ladies and gentlemen, Bam Bam Bigelow was perhaps one of my favorite, at least my top 10 favorite pro wrestlers of all time. He was massive. He had the look. He could talk the mic. The guy could move around in that ring like nobody's business. He was a proven commodity, like a lot of these guys. He was around from the 80s. You can see him here with Hulk Hogan. You can see the old style belt. He was around forever. And he also has the distinction, like a lot of them, like King Kong Bundy did. He main evented a WrestleMania. Now, this was a little bit controversial. Him and Lawrence Taylor. And Lawrence Taylor, he did the main event at a WrestleMania, and he was a non-wrestler. Can you believe that one? And something that a lot of people don't talk about. You know what? Lawrence Taylor, he did an outstanding job for never wrestling before, and all the hype and the pressure. He actually did a fantastic match, and that could be contributed, of course, to the skill of Bam Bam Bigelow. And so many tag title matches the guy had, and opportunities to win the King of the Ring tournament, things of that nature, and the guy pulled out of the career without winning a single title. And keeping in the tradition of good big men, this will be the final of the big men on this list, Big Van Vader. And if you never realized that he never captured the title in his relatively short time in the WWE, this is an eye-opening moment, I'm sure. He could have captured the title from Shawn Michaels. He mowed that guy down. He mowed right through Shawn Michaels. And actually, I kind of wanted Vader to defeat Shawn Michaels for the World Heavyweight Championship. So a guy that was destined to win the world title, he never even won a single tag title or an IC title ever. And that's unbelievable. And thus far, this guy here is probably the most serious threat to the world title on this list for any of these other wrestlers. And that just leaves two wrestlers. And these guys in my books are pretty even. We'll begin with Lex Luger. He was the narcissist, Lex Luger, in 1993. He was amazing, guys. He had the look, the polished look. He wasn't the greatest wrestler of all time, but he was very skilled. He was very careful at what he did. And he hit the scene a little bit later in 93 as a face. He turned face, and of course, he slammed Yokozuna, the first person ever to slam Yokozuna, and he instantly became a fan favorite. He got the bus, the Lex Express, and he was on his way to SummerSlam with all the hype, and he couldn't defeat Yokozuna for the World Championship title. And a lot of people, I'm sure, were betting on Lex Luger. I mean, all the hype, the Lex Express. So, on into WrestleMania 10. This was a sure thing, right, guys? All the hype, all the money and the promotion of all that. Realistically, guys, the world title, I honestly believe that it was supposed to go to Lex Luger. So this guy here, I mean, out of all of the other gentlemen mentioned, this guy was, he was the world championship holder. I mean, come on. He should have won the title. So not only did he was ever able to defeat Yokozuna, but he went on to the tag title ranks and was unable to capture the titles there, even with a great partner like the British Bulldog. So this guy was, honestly, he was also destined to win the world title, but destined never to win the world title or any title for that matter. And that is unbelievable when you think about it. This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and he was, in my opinion, the greatest wrestler of all time, never to win the WWF title or WWE title that actually had a lineage in this organization, this federation, this business. I mean, he was a proven commodity. He had main event after main event with Hulk Hogan. He always shined in those matchups. Like I said, a proven commodity. Not only that, but skill-wise, he was probably the most skilled wrestler on this list. Watch the matches between him and Tito Santana. They tore the house down every single time. And not only that, guys, but like several of these wrestlers, he was in a main event at a WrestleMania. Not only that, but WrestleMania 1, the inaugural bowl, the inaugural event. So, guys, he had everything. He had the look. He had the skill. A great look, actually, and top skill. And he main evented a WrestleMania. He had it all. And for this man, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, he could talk the mic as well, guys. And for him never to win an IC title, never to win a tag title, and never to win the World Championship title, that is a travesty. A total travesty. He would have been an amazing heel back in the 80s for sure. Anyway, guys, that is my 2 cents Let me know in the comment section below if you have some favorite wrestlers from the 70s, 80s, 90s, even today, that never captured a single world title or tag title or IC title. And maybe I will do another list. Who knows? Hit thumbs up on the video, guys, if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Have a great day.